It would fundamentally change how the mortgage industry works in the United States. What is going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the show by real estate operators for real estate operators so that you can run a better real estate business as the economy and world continues to change and adapt. And things get great and things get weird. Who knows? Because that's the way the world works. We are recording today right after the inauguration on January 20th. It's the day after. So if we talk about anything today and it's no longer true or anything super crazy happened, by the time you hear this, sorry, there's a week gap. That's the way that, things sort of like laid out. So if this is your first time here, my name is Mike DeHaan, here with my co-host Dan Austin and Dylan Cook. And how are you guys doing? Did you guys all celebrate yesterday? I know Dylan, I saw you decked out with like the red body paint in your Instagram stories at Dylan Does Deals.
I mean, that's just simply not true. It's starting out with lies, but lies.
I was talking about the football game, national championship.
I knew you were, but still, yes, I was happy that Ohio State won, and I watched the entire game. So
what a scam that is! Like Ohio State winning another cheated national championship.
Dude, they haven't won for a while. I guess since Urban Meyer was there. But
yeah, Urban when they cheated.
I mean, they do have a $20 million payroll, the whole NIL thing now. I think
that's wild, actually. That's probably not the biggest, though. Are they the biggest?
No, they're not the biggest. I think some SET, like probably Texas or Alabama.
Yeah, totally, dude.
Yeah. But that's such a fascinating thing, honestly, that how quickly it went from like Reggie Bush getting everything stripped away for accepting money to now they just like are paying kids like multi 7 figures.
Yeah, to stay in college too. Like you give an 18-year-old or 19-year-old like a couple $1 million. Like I don't know how many. I know how I was 18 or 19, and I wouldn't have kept it.
How's that paid out? Is that actually paid out in cash, or does it have to go to some like weird thing?
I have zero idea.
Like a trust or something. I don't know.
You know what I'm surprised we haven't seen with that is like a personality kind of player, right? That like kind of sucks, but like they're like big dude with like pink hair. That's just like out of control. Like, like
I bet you they have them, dude. I bet you they have to. Like, just like obscure athletes, though. Like, who's actually kind of like that? Nobody's going to know this guy. Well, some people might, but like, Timmy from Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Like, he was actually like, he's not like that great. Like, he's not like an amazing player, but his deal was actually pretty good for Gonzaga.
He's like literally one of the highest scoring players of all time in college basketball.
I know, but like he's not like no, he's not that good, dude.
He was. Like, his stats are insane.
I know he's good, but let's be honest. Like for Gonzaga, if you go look at Gonzaga's like NIL deals now, like there's some standout players that are not making what he made. Like he did very well for himself, especially his senior year when he kind of just went flat.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm surprised there isn't like you know what I'm saying, like someone who's basically like an influencer player.
Yeah.
He's literally recruited because he has like for the views, and the team is like 7-7. They're not even good, but he makes like insane money from all the local companies just because he's like is the guy. I mean, and that might exist. I have no idea.
It's going to happen. Like the Sunday night or Monday night games, and they do like the interviews, and they'll be like, Mike DeHaan from Gonzaga or whatever. Mm-hmm. They'll be like Mike DeHaan from Gonzaga, Rutgers, Texas, because they transfer every year for the NIL.
Go to the transfer portal. Yeah.
God, never to be a one team.
Yeah, but anyways,
if it does happen, Mike, in my strong belief, it will end up being some like really good looking chick that plays like water polo.
Well, they already have those. They already have like several females that are like that are in like track and field and different things. Because they'll also like go to the Olympics, do different stuff, and they have like these huge followings.
Yeah, there's a gymnast from LSU that's dating Paul Skeens, the MLB pitcher, who apparently has like a huge following from her social media.
Oh, yeah, like, good for her.
Plenty of money.
I wonder why. Is she good at gymnastics, you think?
Yeah, no, I think she's actually good.
I think
she's also attractive.
Yeah, which helps. I mean, no one knows the ugly person that does whatever.
That's just saying how algorithms work with Instagram and TikTok.
No, it's just your algorithm, Dan. Mine looks nothing like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't.
Yeah. I don't even want to know what yours looks like.
Mine algorithm is now approaching what like 40-year-old shit would see like silly stuff that's not okay anymore.
I don't even. I'm just waiting for when that was going to go.
Many different directions, but let's maybe move on.
I woke up today to a meme that was like kids born in 1985, and it's like the number 85 and then the age 40. It's like two guys like running after each other. I was like, fuck, dude. Yeah. Like 40 this year.
I mean, you were a short stint away there, Dan. I thought you were going to be like Matthew McConaughey in a Dazed and Confused. The best thing about high school girls, you get old, they stay the same age.
Dude. I got a daughter. I'm not a pervert like you guys.
No, that's Leo DiCaprio, right? It's like every girlfriend's 25 years or younger.
Yeah, right. God, whatever.
It's like every rich, famous person now.
Yeah, seriously. Except for, this is a good transition, Jeffrey Bezos. But the inauguration was yesterday, and it was very, and again, I always never know like what stuff is put on the media versus like what's standard. Is it normal for there to be like every celebrity at these sort of things? Or is that just because that's like his
It's because they're who donates. They donate, man.
And it was like extra attention was brought to it this year just because like that's what their whole brand has been the entire time. But Jeffrey Bezos and Zuck and, obviously Elon and all these other guys standing right behind Trump in front of all of the politicians during the inauguration, which was quite telling with Bezos and his wife, girlfriend, whatever she is.
So Bezos, I think, he was at Biden's as well.
Yeah, was he?
But I don't think his girlfriend was so prominent though.
Yeah, back then. The inauguration and what came in with a lot of that, which is something that will be an interesting thing to watch, is a lot of these executive orders that Trump signed, which I don't really fully understand the power that these really have when they're so vague, but a lot of them pushing things around like affordability and, undoing a lot of stuff that the Biden administration apparently did to make things more expensive. But this one that is right at the top, which is very interesting, with the price relief for American families and deleting the cost of living crisis bill, that's what it's called. It very specifically addresses making housing more affordable and increasing housing supply. And how they're going to do that from their White Castle, I have no idea. But it obviously is something that they are going to allegedly try and change. What that means from a real estate investment standpoint, I don't know.
My only guess is it's going to be, because this is something that Trump's talked about a lot, is like reduction of regulation. What that looks like from HUD, FHA, and all that stuff. So, I mean, obviously they could stimulate the economy by like dumping money through FHA and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if it has to do with some regulation, which again, the federal government, I don't know how much they can actually meddle in like local stuff. Like where we're at in Spokane, I'm building a house. So I know permits to build the house are like, going to be like 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of expensive. I don't know, 20 grand, the average house here is probably, what is the average price point now, Mike? 350, 400?
Yeah, 400-ish. I think it's like 402
I don't know.
Something.
So maybe it's like 8 or 10% of like a house. So that's kind of expensive, but the federal government doesn't get a bite of that. So the federal government can't reduce that. But that regulatory kind of is the only thing I can think of.
There's the top line price of real estate, right? Which is what the house actually costs. The thing is, most people, they don't operate on that number. What they care about, and this is why we saw such a huge increase in values in 2021, is what their monthly payment is.
Of course.
Most people work on a monthly basis, a monthly budget. The federal government can do things technically to bring down.
Well, they can stimulate
payments,
through loans and FHA incentives and stuff like that for lower income folks.
And in my mind, what this is like, the people that are most drawn to things like this are the people who can't qualify for a mortgage. They can't afford a monthly payment. They can't get a loan. And so if they wanted to do something, that's where I think it would be, and not necessarily on the actual real estate top line value or even the supply. It's going to be like, how can they play with the numbers to make it so that the monthly payments people are getting into are actually affordable?
Yeah.
No, I have to agree with everything you guys just said. And I mean, to make things truly more affordable, I think it doesn't beat the law of supply and demand, and you need to build more housing, and that's going to be more on the local level than anything the federal government can do.
Yeah.
And touching on that, go ahead, Mike. Sorry,
I was saying if they're not able to increase the demand, right? The supply, but they increase the demand by making the
loans cheaper.
The loans cheaper, it's just going to drive the value,
which they can't do, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the federal. That's a.
And what do you do? Change like, I forget what the debt to income is for like an FHA, but it's literally like you're going to let people buy 50% of their DTI go towards homes. Like
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
They do wild, like they can do longer term mortgages. I mean, there's other countries that have 50, 100-year mortgages even. There's even countries that will do things like negative interest rate loans for certain people. to get them into housing because they value the security. There's a lot of weird stuff they can do if they want to change the model, but it would fundamentally change how the mortgage industry works in the United States.
Right.
Do we already have like a 40-year product? Is that a thing?
They talked about it years ago.
The only 40-year product is like it starts out with a 10-year IO, interest only, and then it transitions to a 30-year fixed.
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah, because like other countries, like Mike is saying, like Canada's had 0 interest rates, Japan has had 0 or negative interest rates for a long time. It's kind of a weird way, but they also have different loans and structure where it's like way harder to own your property in your lifetime.
Yeah. Or just straight subsidized housing. Like, are we going to get to a point where all of a sudden you see the government basically owning neighborhoods and renting it out to people at a lower rate, almost like Section 8, but it's passed on to
I would
larger
say
institutions.
In the next 4 years, that is unlikely. I think it'd be more likely that they would allow companies to own houses.
Exactly.
It's corporations.
We're a capitalistic country. I would be surprised if the feds did it.
Like there's a HUD
apartment complex that just sold to a private buyer here in Cincinnati.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know that that's any better than the government owning it, but I could see that, right? Like I know Elon did, and was it down in Texas? Like he and this was like a thing a few years ago. There's a couple big companies doing this where they're going back to what it used to be like in like the, I don't know, 50s, 60s, and 70s. You would see where a company would move into a town, and the town would be created kind of by the company, and the company would own the house. So they would pay you to work, and then they would own the grocery store. They would own the house you lived in, and you just paid them rent. So the company kind of just owned you and everything. It's kind of almost indentured servitude. So like I said, I don't know if it's good or bad, but that was a thing that I felt like it was like 3 or 4 years ago was becoming a thing that some of these companies are trying to do, especially in areas where they need to bring in infrastructure to have housing for a factory or whatever.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
One thing, like with Trump's second term, in his first term, he did like the Jobs Act, right? Well, that actually expires at the end of 2025. And so like a lot of those would get repealed. So that changes tax brackets, business taxes, all that kind of stuff. So I would assume that is something that he would look to either re-implement or like renew up before 2025 is over, especially since they control other, portions of the House and the Senate. And for real estate investors too, I mean, not only is that your tax brackets, but I would assume, and I've heard this through the grapevine, that bonus depreciation might come back. He's a real estate guy. So, if we can go back to 100% bonus depreciation, I feel like that would bring even more investors back into the market.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
But we should start a syndication. 100% bonus depreciation is what you get. That's it.
Right?
That's
no
your
shit.
return.
Dude, you could sell the fuck out of that to these dumb people.
Just threw up in my mouth a little bit, Dan.
Go find some doctors in Southern California that make too much money, and they're like, yeah, I need to save on taxes.
I made $200,000 last year. Do you have any idea how much taxes that is?
Here's the whole thing. We're going to lose money so you can use it to write off on your taxes.
God. Has that movement gone away? I feel like there was
a comeback, baby.
During the Matt Onofrio period, there was like a whole...
There was some weird stuff going on.
Thing like that, where it was everywhere.
Kathy Wood, who manages the ARC fund, she basically tweeted like, hey, because we lost so much money, we don't have to worry about capital gains for years. Like she said, this is like a good thing. I'm like,
my God.
You just admitted that you just lost literally hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's crazy. She didn't, because she was peeling right off the top.
Yeah, she was getting her 1% fee, baby.
God, such a bracket.
You know what's more than $1 million? 1% of $1 trillion.
Yeah, right.
You're not wrong, buddy.
Yeah.
So, but was there anything else you're gonna go with all that, Dylan?
Not really. Yeah, I just keep an eye on it. And like we've said before, I just subscribe to something locally. It's like the Cincinnati Enquirer that basically for the reasons that you see new developments come in, like, hey, like new developers coming in here. And that's just being aware of your local market, knowing where to put money, knows what's going to be new, what's going to be not.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, right? And then a lot of this federal stuff, understand that 95% of what the feds say at like the highest level might affect you a little bit, but probably not like as much as you want it to. So put your eggs in your local basket, not in there's a lot with that. Like if you can big cozy up to like your local government and figure out where they're going to be, that's where some of these folks that you see in your local town making all the money, because they know ahead of time where to invest their money. And so your local government politics freaking matter a ton, because you don't need to have an opinion. You just need to follow whatever they're doing.
Yeah. It's like legal insider trading, like what Nancy Pelosi does with stocks. but you can just know about it in real estate.
And there's very wealthy, successful people in every city that are doing that, right? And that have made a lot of money doing the most boring stuff. There's actually this great Hormozy highlight where he's like, who here would be happy with $10 million? And like everyone raised their hands like, cool. So you can abandon needing to like invent a new vacuum cleaner or like have some crazy tech startup. Instead, just go and start a basic trade business. You know, and you will make that amount of money very, very like much more simple than trying to like come up with some new fancy thing that no one's ever heard of before. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Actually, I have a question for you guys. This is along the same lines. I know of a guy who basically gave $1 million to a portfolio manager who's well connected within the city and fully like expected like mediocre returns, like 7-8%. But he's like, and I know I could take that $1 million, put it back in my business to make a lot more money. However, proximity is power, and I want to be friends with this guy. And he knows all the insider stuff. He knows what's coming. So basically his $1 million, like, yes, he was also friends with this person, but he basically took the trade-off of reinvesting his own business and just to have a connection with this very powerful person. Is that something that you think is worth it?
100%. That's why you should pay for access to country clubs as well.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do that, right? That's why dudes like Grant Cardone can raise money at 6%. Doesn't make any sense. It's because people want to be closer to Grant Cardone, you know, or why like people can go and buy what's like the Platinum Club or whatever from Tony Robbins, like $100,000 for the year.
Because you can shake his hand.
Wow. That's
Plus,
crazy.
you still have to pay for all your travel to all the things that you're required to go to. It's like, so you're paying like $150, probably more than that, to hang out with Tony Robbins.
That's I think there's a lot to it. Like, as long as it's not like you're making a stupid investment or a stupid play, and you're going to leverage and utilize that. Like,
it's just I think pure quantitative play. Like, oh, I know I could take this and reinvest it at, you know, what's our marketing, you know, at return on ad spend, right? Versus this isn't going to do much, but now I have access to this person. And I think, you know, there's a trade-off between proximity to power and people.
Well, it comes down to how much is that $1 million to you, right? Like, if you only have $1 million and you do that, it's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
If you have, you know, $5 million and you choose to do that, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Like, it's a small part of your
Just want your opinion
portfolio.
on
that. Yeah. So, but you know, I like so much of everything is networking, right? At all levels. I mean, like, regardless of any business that you're in, so much gets done based on who you know, who you're connected with, right? Who has good things to say about you and is willing to share your connection with other people or to share connections with you. Like, that's how the world
works. Like, if you need $500,000 for transactional funding to close by the end of the month, you know who to call.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Those guys are awesome.
Yeah, and we're just, you know, sitting on money and able to do that for you. But cool. All right, how's things going on in your business, Dylan?
I mean, they're good. You're rocking and rolling right now.
You got a ton based on your Wins Channel post that you had right before this.
Yeah, I mean, some of these was kind of the norm. Some lower fees, like I got 2 or 3 like 5 to 10K assignments, which is below, and I was just trying to basically squeeze something out of nothing, which I was able to do. But then there's, you know, one seller. This is like the opportunity that anybody can get. One seller has a ton of properties that they want to sell pretty much all at once. They don't really have a timeline. They don't really care about taxes. He's like, I'm just done with these. And I was able to, you know, put all 3 of these under contract. They're all getting sold to the same end buyer, right? So that makes it a little bit more convenient.
That's awesome.
And, you know, it's going to be a record-breaking January for us because of these, the total of, I think, 7 or 8 deals now.
That's awesome.
And
that's really cool.
The best part about this is this same seller has 2 or 3 basically commercial properties in good areas of town. They're small commercial, but they're still commercial, like retail spots that we've already talked about, and I could potentially seller finance some of these. And so it's almost like these front end deals might fund the down payment for these seller finance deals that we could buy over the next couple of months.
That's great. That's awesome. I mean, that's the way to do the business, right? Is create that massive income so then you can put it into the long term investment.
Exactly. So I mean, all things are going well, firing all cylinders. Still just struggling with what other marketing to do. If I'm being honest, it's all just basically direct mail and PPL, which I've not had success with. I know other people in scale have had success, so I'm going to give it another month. But so just grinding.
Is it delayed? you have mail delay issues like we did, or because you're in the Midwest, it just got delivered?
No, we had was some the wet, like we had some really bad weather. Like it's like 6 degrees out right here right now.
Yeah.
So we had some cold and snow problems, but so it's not delayed by a lot, but a little bit.
Ours are so delayed, dude. We're finally getting mail that's slowly starting to hit that was mailed out right after New Year's.
Oh, wow.
It's like
that's very
3
delayed.
weeks. It sucks ass, dude. We've been so like slow, and working with Ballpoint, it's been nice because they actually have like all the tracking information, so you can see the status of everything. And so the first batch finally started getting delivered over the weekend, but then like our second and third batch should technically be hitting right now. It's just kind of like, oh, it's somewhere. Like we can see that it got dropped off at the post office and was scanned in, but it's just like wherever. And the USPS status is like 15 days late. I'm like, wow, thank you.
Yeah,
that's helpful. So
USPS ticks me off. I literally got a return to sender the other day. That was the stamp on it was from 2022.
Nice.
Yeah, we get those sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah, we get those a little bit.
It was just gone in the abyss for 3 years. Like I just don't understand.
Yeah, they spent $3,000 to get you that 50-cent postcard back too.
Right.
All the bureaucracy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went in. This is just a little vignette of me going in the post office recently because to get our kids' passports. And so I scheduled an appointment. So I go in and it's kind of busy. We went in on New Year's Eve or something like that, or maybe it's like, I don't remember. It's like around New Year's. And I walk in and there's the passport lane and there's just a lady behind the counter. So I walk up, I'm like, hey, I have an appointment for 10:45 or whatever. She's like, get in line. And I was like, what, like this line? And there's 20 people in line for their passport. I was like, all right, okay, cool. I guess the appointment scheduling does not matter.
Yeah.
That was it. I was like, all right, thanks for the customer service, guys.
That's what all that stuff. There's something like the DMV, right? It's just what does it actually matter?
What the heck, dude? Yeah, no wonder why our mail's 3 weeks behind.
I know. But that does bring up a valid question though, Dylan, because there's always this talk in business around different kinds of marketing strategies. And if you have this single, marketing risk, right? Single channel risk like this, you can get thrown off by things that are out of your control. But these days, there's so much regulation coming around cold calling and texting, new regulation coming around things like paper lead. PPC is pretty expensive and difficult to do. Doing brand building stuff, media, marketing, radio, TV, whatever, all those things are quite expensive and take a while. What are your backup plans? Right. You know what? The options that even there were to generate leads from years ago are so much so
you can go back to the tried and true bandit signs, which I've never done, by the way, but I know people have had success with them.
Yeah. Maybe just stuff like that. Throw up a billboard if you want to look a little bit more official.
Billboard, wrap your car in a decal, have people drive around.
Yeah. Honestly, branding.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, Mike, I don't really know. Mail has always been the tried and true. And do I actually think that's going to go away? The answer is no.
I think it's going to go away. But the problem is you're always at risk of issues, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're single source. There's one provider of mail, and that's the USPS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess where my head goes to is this is where it's almost better to be bigger than just a 1 or 2 deal operation a month. Mm-hmm. Because if mail is your only source and you're sourcing 1 or 2 deals a month and you go dry for 2 months, that's kind of when you're testing the waters a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's almost also, you always need something in escrow to be closing.
Yeah, that's also why it's important to never stop marketing, right? Even if you do have these delays or you are busy. Say, for example, all of our mail has been delayed delivering this week, this month, but we still have signed, I think, 7 so far for the month. So even though we haven't really had lead flow at all, and most of that is from either the paper lead stuff, which has come through and we've been working, or this from old leads that have been in the system for a couple of months. Right. So it does give us some wiggle room while things kind of figure out. Because you're saying 6 degrees over there. I'm sitting here thinking, well, fuck, it's still going to be delayed going into future months because you guys can't figure out how to deal with freaking weather. It's
damn
it's it doesn't happen. It happens every year. Why is it continuously a problem? It's never been cold in the Midwest before. Jesus Christ. But
it's a valid point. A very valid
So hold on,
point.
just logistically, if you're ordering from Ballpoint, I'm pretty sure they're based in St. Louis, which is not even anywhere near me. So that doesn't
Dude, it's all the
apply.
same thing.
No,
chunk of
it has to be at
America.
least 600
It's-
miles apart.
It's
Oh my
called the
gosh.
Midwest, bro. It's the
Wait,
same.
here's the
Anything over the
question.
mountains is the
Yeah.
Midwest to you.
Is
No, it's
Ohio
not.
is Ohio East Coast or is it Midwest? That's the real
Midwest.
argument here. Is it
Yeah.
Midwest? Okay,
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
Midwest.
Exactly.
You're almost, but
So 600 miles, like that's not even far, bro. That's like almost here to Seattle, which I would call is like very close in proximity. That's like a day trip.
and also if you're going to be statist, like I know a lot of people from your part of the world that don't have any idea what's beyond the Rocky Mountains.
Totally.
They're like, do you guys have telephones over there?
Yeah.
Yes, we do, and trains.
Yeah. I see what all your people do when they come visit. They show up and they roll out of their pickup truck they rented from Hertz and like a cowboy hat and boots. And they're just like, where are the cowboys at? I don't understand.
I
I'm
hate
out
that.
west now.
I hate that that's very accurate.
It's so accurate,
It's
dude.
John Candy in a yellow Ryder truck getting the Home Alone mom home, dude. That's what
Yeah.
it is. That's
So
all you guys.
Cincinnati to St. Louis is 350 miles. I just Googled
That's
it.
even closer than here
Oh
in
my
Seattle.
god, that's
bro.
so close, dude. Yeah, you guys
So-
are.
Is it really that close?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Holy
saying.
shit.
It's the Midwest. You're basically in the same state. So,
Whatever.
anyways,
I mean, anyway, to get back to your thing about like USPS. I mean, I think if you're an entrepreneur and you run a business, you'll figure out something. Like you
Yeah.
just got to have that figure it out mentality.
you have to, and you never know what
Yeah.
the answer is, right? That's something that Dan and I were discussing earlier. Is like when we're slow, what should the strategy be? And I don't know, and I can't like go and Google how to find leads when your wholesale business is slow. Like that's just nothing.
Yeah.
It all just goes to like
Yeah.
direct mail and, you can cold call people. You can do
I
whatever.
mean, I've been known to cold call from my Google Voice number on very select like lists or like locations. You
That's
know,
what we're
like
doing. Yeah.
there's I mean, there's stuff like that like
What does any new business do, right? They give you, like, if you're an employee at a business or a new business is starting up, to give you a cold call list and a cold door knock list to say, go
Mhm.
talk to these other, like if you're B2B, go talk to these other businesses and try to get them to buy our services. And you're going to
Yeah.
spend a lot of time and then you're going to finally get someone to say yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
that's
that's
what like
kinda what you
roofing
have to
companies
do.
do. Well, after
Mhm.
like a storm, they go door to door and be like, "Hey, so the roof
Mhm.
just came through. Let's see if you're missing any shingles, and I'll have your insurance pay
Yeah.
for it." Right?
Well,
Like,
and then what do you think they have to do when there's no storms? They've got to do something, right? Because
Yeah.
like,
They go
Not
and
a good way to
provide a
run your
free
business.
roof inspection and they kick some shingles off and they go, we're going to have to fix this.
100%. That's exactly how it works.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
okay. We got to just find how we can kick our shingles off someone's house.
Ooh, you're saying we gotta go and
so
like
Arson.
burn down
Dan's
some
also
houses.
saying,
then.
"Let's go like bust a window in a house or two,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and follow up with them a
Yeah.
week later and be like, yeah, this
Yeah.
area is not getting very safe."
We're going
you
to
know?
drag homeless people out to other people's houses, let them camp in their front yard.
Dan's creating
Yeah.
his own market.
Yeah.
Anyone that's listening, erase the
a-
last 30
Yeah.
seconds.
I'm a market maker, man.
Yeah, right. Goddamn. But, so no, that's awesome though, Dylan. Yeah, congrats on that. That good start though.
Yeah, I mean, if the goal is 7-figure top line, I guess, what is that? 87-ish thousand top line a month. You divide it by
Yeah.
12.
Mhm.
So yeah,
It is.
that's the target. So we'll beat that in January. Hopefully it can just
Nice.
continue that.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you're doing it in the slow months. You'll definitely be able to do it in the hot months. Sweet. Brian, any good lessons from this week? I know Dan's got a couple.
Yeah, Dan, you go first.
Unless you want to
Oh,
save for the
man.
Friday focus.
Let's see, lessons. So we have a deal where the buyer, right? I should back up. The deal, we found out, has to have the taxes paid. The county pays the taxes the day before the closing date were set. I didn't know that. So lesson number one, if the house you're buying is going to tax foreclosure, you should probably know that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good call.
That's a good
Yeah.
lesson. I just, it's a virtual market for us. It wasn't something that I was aware of from the beginning, and I didn't go and look. It's not something I commonly do. But that's, understanding the seller situation is key, because she even said in a text, like, hey, the county has to be paid by the 27th. And I was like, okay, like property taxes, whatever. Like I just did. She didn't say tax, but I just kind of overlooked it. So lesson one. The second lesson here is the buyer on the deal. He didn't get all of his documents into the lender until like last Monday. And I think we've been in escrow for a couple weeks prior to that, like 2 weeks or something like that. And so I always check to make sure like who's the lender you're going to use. And in this
Mhm.
case, the buyer's using Kiavi, which is a reputable, very common national hard money lender. I was like, okay, they're going to be, a little longer to fund, but, I didn't know we had to worry about it until he said, he's just like, I just kind of wasn't really in a rush because I didn't know we had to make this date. And what happened was I called the county and they're like, yeah, you have to pay us the day before the auction by 4 p.m. with a cashier's check. The title company was like, to do that, we need to close the property, get the funds from Kiavi, let that clear our bank account, which you guys know as well as I do. Anytime you get like a $200,000 check in your account, they don't usually release it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to wait a couple of days for it to release. Then they have to print the cashier's check and physically get it over to the county. So it's like, we need to close actually the Friday before, so like a week before. So the whole thing kind of came out to now we got to figure out what to do, which is, do we just go and pay the taxes out of our pocket before closing so it doesn't actually get foreclosed on, or do we double close the property? And typically double close is not a big deal, but in Washington we do have excise tax, so that's 2% of the gross sale of the house we'd have to pay.
Or gross sale of the house?
Mm-hmm, the gross sale.
Wow.
So it's like a transfer tax or excise tax. So it's say another $4,000 or $5,000 that we would have to come up with.
It's pretty significant.
Yep. And the buyer is like, I don't really care. He's like, I just wanted, this is the deal or it's not the deal. And so we're having to figure out, how do we make this deal work? So lesson learned there is not only confirming with your buyer who their lender is, and I've done this in the past, especially when I'm a little shaky, but calling that other lender so you can talk to them and say, what's your funding time? Because I've used Kiavi a bunch, and they say they might say they can fund in a week. They can't fund in a week.
No.
Never.
Most hard money lenders are 10 days at a minimum.
At a minimum. And definitely Kiavi, because they're probably going to want to send somebody out there to look at it and all that sort of stuff. So it's just a matter of making sure not just to confirm the lender, but confirm the submission of the documents, especially if you have a short timeline, because that lender is going to be the other thing that holds you up. If it's a private money lender, it's easy to get on the phone and talk to them. And then for you maybe make a contact for a new private lender. So it's actually a good idea to talk to them. But also private lenders usually can fund, super fast. And so, but getting that connection, just making sure, is this good? Because the lender might tell you something totally different. Like, yeah, it's good, but I think this deal sucks, so I might not fund it. Oh, well, also my buyer didn't say that.
Especially with those larger companies, I don't think people fully realize that they are not your lender. Like, they're actually ones giving you the money. They are selling your loan to somebody else right off the bat. And so they have a whole process. They have to get approved. Your loan has to get approved with them. It's possible they don't even necessarily know who's going to be buying your loan at first, which is, totally standard. But that's why there's extra hurdles versus if, like, Dan and I, we have our hard money lending company. It's typically our cash that we're lending on. So that's why we can lend in like 48 hours, because we have the money sitting here, like, ready to go.
Yep.
Right.
And we look at the deal personally. We look at everything. Right. And so it's like, there's no middleman in this situation.
Yeah. I was actually looking to see if it says, so I was looking at an old, he's lending one a lot too. This isn't a promo for these guys, or just who we've used. But it says very specifically in their emails, what I never noticed before, so I wasn't paying attention to it, that they, that by basically working with them, you recognize that they are not the direct lender and that they are going to be brokering your loan. And these are like basically the rules that apply by different states. And there's like this big block in the bottom of every email that's like, several inches long in your email that basically outlines all the conditions for their loans. But of course, in their marketing material, they advertise that it's super easy to work with no hurdles and hoops and everything else. It's all bullshit. But,
which is why their terms change a lot too, because it depends on who's buying it. But they're trying to back in their own profit into it.
Exactly. I mean, like, Dan and I, with all these lenders, we have had several times where we're literally like driving to closing and they're like, hey, we're actually going to need to change it so that you're bringing 20% down now instead of 10%, just because we woke up and felt that way. Yep. They never have like a good reason, because they don't want to tell you that they're selling your loan. Just if they were honest about it, honestly would be
Nobody
easier.
cares, right?
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's the changing at the last second. I'm going to be, my tip of the week will be more boring, but it's still important. So as the audience might know, I hired an assistant probably like halfway through, maybe 2/3 way through 2024. And so like we switched bookkeeping at that time. And I was trying to review everything today, and it's a mess. And so like it just get your bookkeeping, your 1098s, like all of this stuff organized, and don't wait until the last second, because last year I had to extend. And then when you extend, you're also paying like interest on the extension. So get your books in order. Try to do it quick. I know it sucks. I know it's boring, but it's also important.
Yeah, it's very important.
Or if you have like a business partner like me who extends and then Dan.
Yeah, I got fucked. I got actually I got a penalty because of Mike last year. So Mike actually owes me money.
Yeah, well, because I extended.
I'm not going to blame Mike for that.
And then our accountant, because he did both of our personal stuff and our business stuff, just assumed that Dan wanted to extend too. Yeah. And so just never filed Dan's taxes. And Dan didn't know until like October when he reaches out and he's like, hey, you ready to do your taxes? And Dan's like, I thought you already did.
Yeah. And I was like, he's like, you owe $100,000 plus another like $3,000 for penalties. I was like, what the fuck? Like penalties for what?
Yeah, for not filing.
I didn't do anything wrong. Jesus, dude.
Yeah, sorry.
That's a valid point though, Dylan. I'm actually meeting with one of the guys in Scale. I think what's the date? Tomorrow to go over kind of like bookkeeping, because like that's something that can be hard to figure out and it's commonly overcomplicated. And what I think Mike and I have come to the realization on this is like there's only so much when it comes to, you know, the size of our business and the importance of the financials of our business. You can only hand so much off to a virtual bookkeeper or an employee unless you have like a full on, you know, bookkeeper in your business and they're trained and they're like there next to you, right? Because so much gets dropped and so much gets missed and you end up having to like be the person that codes it anyways because they're like, what is this? And you're like, I'll just go hop in and do it. And so it's like figuring out the way to do that so that come January 1st, you can pull all your reports and reconcile everything and be done and just throw it to your accountant. Because otherwise,
it's different versus fix and flip versus the wholesale business versus advertising versus rentals. They're all kind of taxed differently. Totally. Even rentals inside, like a maintenance item versus CapEx item. 1098 things from hard money lenders can be reduced off of. So like your interest expense, all that kind of stuff.
Totally. Yep. And if you can reduce that down to like 20 minutes a month, 30 minutes a month, then just you're sometimes almost as the business owner of a business like ours, just doing it by yourself.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I spent probably 2 hours going through it today. That's 2 hours that I'm not calling sellers. Right. So,
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Good point. Good lesson.
And one other thing just on taxes, real quick, just because I've seen this come up a lot recently. Understand, guys, that if you do take depreciation on your properties, that's cool. Can reduce your tax burden and everything, but you do have to pay that back eventually. So don't 25%. Feel like it's a free pass. You're still going to have to pay a 25% taxes on that sometime in the future. And, you know, there's so many people out there that go and preach this accelerated depreciation, all these different things. If you're someone who made like $100,000 and you're going to go and like rack up this accelerated depreciation and try and pay less taxes, just save it. Just pay the taxes. Wait for the year that you make like $1 million.
Think about it this way.
You're actually saving money and you're not just like, you know,
it's almost,
I think it's cool.
Almost kind of a government scam if you think about it.
It really is, dude.
Because think about this, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it because I think it's a useful tool for the people that use it the right way. 100%. Like, because you're basically, it's almost like, it's kind of similar to like, if you do 401k, like, do you do pre-tax or do you do post-tax? Because at least post-tax, you own it and your taxes aren't any higher on that stuff. But pre-tax, you get more time with more money in it to grow. Well, with depreciation, the idea being is you can save on taxes to reinvest that money now and let that money grow faster. And that's the people, like, if you can do that and you can keep reinvesting, it makes sense. But really, what if your effective tax rate is like 15% and you're doing depreciation? And you would have just paid 15% on that tax, but when you get the recapture to sell it, you're paying 25. That's where I'm saying maybe it's a scam by the government if you don't do it right.
If you don't do it right.
Especially because most people, they don't take that money and go and put it into their business. They're like, I'm taking that money, I'm going to go buy a boat. Right?
Yeah, like, boats are cool.
Boats are cool. Totally. But you're going to come out worse in like, I would say the long run, because most people look to sell their property on average 5 to 7 years. You're going to be paying it sooner than you think.
Yeah.
Right. And just understand what you're doing.
Keep going down this, but I think like for Dan saying doing it right. Also for those people who may be married to someone with a high W-2 and you qualify for real estate professional status, which is just a tax designation, and you can reduce your partner's active income. That's also a bigger component
because their tax is already super high, right? And that
exactly.
Makes sense.
So now
if you have a low income,
exactly,
it's not as helpful.
Yeah, these are things that Dylan thinks about with his sugar mom over there, because both Dan and I's wives don't work. So
hell yeah.
It's not on my radar, but sorry, Dylan. I had to
no, Mike. What's your lesson? Yeah,
what's my lesson?
Yeah, marry rich.
Yeah, right. That's my lesson.
Marry a doctor.
No. So mine mostly goes to the single single channel risk on marketing is what I've been trying to focus on this week.
Mm-hmm.
And because the lesson that we have sort of shot ourselves in the foot with a little bit is we started doing some more brand-based marketing and some online stuff, which takes time to ramp up like everything else. How it was timed was it was supposed to basically start kicking off as our mail was starting to hit for January. I failed to predict that an inch of snow means the entire shutdown of 30 million people in the Midwest. So, I just assumed that was something that happened. And so now as a result, we have this weird like belly super slow period in our marketing. Whereas what I should have done in hindsight is kicked off that stuff at the end of December. So it would be sort of like ramped up by now. But I didn't do that because I was going off of my historicals and I didn't pick the the Black Swan event coming into play there.
Yep.
So, but point being with less of that is make sure that you always have other options for finding deals, even if it means you're just going to have to work harder and you have to network. Because if you are always just relying on a singular thing, you're always at risk of it being shut down.
Boom. So, that's good advice.
Cool. All right.
Great advice.
Anything else, guys?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Right on. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. Please share our show with your friends. It helps us out a lot, especially in this saturated space with the old Zuck now throttling everything, wanting you to pay for exposure. Seriously, you guys should go and look at, there's all these different studies and things about how much like organic exposure on social media has dropped over the last like 6 months. It's insane, honestly.
Everyone we talk to says the same thing, man. Nothing's happening.
They're trying to get you to pay to play. And, it's kind of unfortunate.
You're going to start, you're going to start seeing, people like boost their posts just so people see like, their family pictures and shit.
Honestly, bro, like it's only a matter of time before people start doing that. And then where it's going to get really weird is those people are going to be competing with like businesses who are trying to get actual exposure. But anyways, everyone have a good week and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
See y'all.